Ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to Building a Nation Team Canada with Zebu Nation. And today we're going to take a little bit closer look at the players and the competitions, see what we have currently, what we're building towards, and just in general, what do we have to work with here in Canada in terms of players. Now, before we get to that, I do want to mention that this is just the base database, update 19.4, whatever it is. I haven't added any players. I haven't increased any ability for Canada to get better recruits, or I haven't made the lower leagues playable or any of that stuff. It's just the base FM most updated database. So I just wanted to make that clear before we get started. And then I have also added a skin. This is the yak skin from the Steam Workshop. I thought that was a little bit fitting because, a Zebu is a kind of a yak. Anyway, so it does look a little different than some of my other saves, but it's not going to play incredibly different because it's just the base database. I wanted to make that clear. All right, so now let's take a look at, we looked at the nation itself last episode. Let's take a look at the player pool, see what we have available in the national pool. So right now I have it filtered for just the under 19s. So as you can see, our under 19 pool is not that large currently. It's a little bit small, but we do have some quality at the top of this class, this recruiting class, if you will, starting with Alphonso Davies, former Whitecap player, now out to FC Bayern, out there in the Bundesliga. So, he's a pretty good player, exciting young player, only 18 years old, plays out on the left wing. A lot of speed, acceleration. This is the kind of guy we're looking for. He's got some flair, he's got some technical abilities, very nice dribbling, work rate. 6 foot tall, 163 pounds, so he's what we're looking for. He's a big, fast kid, and he's only 18 years old, so he's probably going to be one of our top wingers for most of this series, at least for the next 8 years. He'll be up there. And then what's interesting about our top players, our very top players in this recruiting class of under 19 eligibility, they're all the players that we need. They're wingers and strikers. So the fact that we can have our best players be those ones that we don't have a ton of depth at their position, that's good and bad. It's good because we'll have those guys and they'll be our top players, but there won't be a ton of depth underneath them like we'll have at midfield and some of the other positions for our team. But anyway, for our nation, rather. Let's move on to our next player, David. We looked at him on the screen. He's voted as one of our most important players, and he'll probably be our striker going forward. Again, he's got a lot of speed, acceleration, definitely looking for that. He's maybe not quite as advanced as Davies in terms of mentally and technically, but he is well-rounded in both of those areas. He does have finishing and composure and first touch and dribbling technique, so he's going to be a pretty decent striker for us. And again, at only 19 years old, he's going to get even better. He's pretty strong with both left and right foot, so if we get some other strikers who move up the ladder, we could also move this guy out to left or right wing. He can give us some depth in those positions I mentioned that maybe we might not have a ton of depth going forward. So he's just a good all-around attacking player for us. This is very good to have him on the roster. And then a guy I didn't really know much about, maybe you don't know much about either, is Balu Tabla, playing from Barcelona, or at least he's on loan from Barcelona currently. Another attacking midfielder. He can play on the left or the right. Going forward, we'll probably play him on the right here for Team Canada and let Davies play on the left. But again, he's a pretty good player. Not as fast as those other guys. Not as physical as those other guys. Only 5'9", 154 pounds. But he does have very good technical, some pretty good mental. Again, he's got flair, So he's got that ability to make plays and be exciting, and that's something that maybe Canadian soccer has missed in the past. They haven't had those guys that can make the one-on-one exciting goal-scoring type plays. So if this is a pretty solid attacking front three right here with Balu, David, and Davies left, right, and center. That's pretty good. And currently, as you see, all three of those guys are on our main squad. So, we don't have a lot of time for these kids to grow up. They've got to start playing for us and playing for us right now. One guy who is in the under 20s, who's a 2.5-star player currently, Sean Hundle, a striker. He's currently contracted to Toronto FC2, so you can see the sort of drop of what we're talking about. You're talking about Barcelona, Bayern, and then Toronto FC2. Right, so there's a huge drop between the top three and the rest of this under 19 class. But of the rest of the under 19 class, Sean Hundle at 19 years old is currently the best. Again, he's a striker. He's got some flair, so he's got some goal scoring ability. He'll most likely be a reserve type guy for our team. But he does have some pretty decent pace, acceleration, and strength. So again, he's got those physical attributes that we're looking for. He can get better at 19 years old. His ceiling, if he doesn't get out of TFC2, he may have reached his ceiling. So we need to find a way to get this guy to a better team. Now, good news is he is currently under bid. Do we know who's bidding for him? Vancouver is currently bidding for him. So this is what I'm talking about. As someone who is taking control of Canadian soccer, I got to get this guy out of TFC2. I got to find a new place for him. So we're going to try to bring him over to Vancouver, and then if I can't play him in my starting lineup, I'll look to move him on to somewhere he could play at a higher level. So that's the kind of moves, kind of wheeling and dealing we're going to have to do as part of this here save. After that, we got a right winger, Doug Campbell, Dave DeBerg, a defender. We got a few 2-star guys who are maybe they could get up to 3 stars, maybe a little bit more if they can move on to some better teams. But, it's kind of slim pickings after those top 4 guys of who is going to improve and who's going to get better. Is kind of a crapshoot. Now, I have singled out a couple of guys. Noble Okello, currently contracted to Toronto FC, 18-year-old defensive midfielder / central defender. This kid, he's got good size, good athletic ability, 6'4", 17 jumping reach. He already has 14 tackling as an 18-year-old. So he's a guy that if Toronto FC can play this guy and get him some minutes, he's got 4-star potential. So he's a guy who could reach international quality, or at least North American international quality. So we're going to keep an eye on Noble Okello, see if he can reach that potential and reach, the starting lineup. Currently, we've got him called up to the main team just to take a look at him and see, maybe that will give his profile a little boost, and maybe Toronto will think about playing him a little bit more if he's on the main team. And then the final guy we wanted to look at here was Chris Viscosi, another attacking midfielder, another guy with 4-star potential. Let's take a look at him. Currently playing at Toronto FC 3, so we definitely need to make a move for this guy, although he is only 16 years old, so he's got a little bit of time before we have to panic. But, he's got 16 acceleration, so he's a quick player. He's not the biggest and strongest, but, he's still a guy who's got potential, so we have to keep an eye on him. He's got some flair, some determination, first touch, dribbling. So he's not as developed as any of those other guys, but he is only 16 years old. But he does have the potential, and we have to keep our eye on that potential. All right, so next let's take a look at the under 20s and move up the age bracket a little bit, see where we're at. So again, when it comes to under 20s, we don't add a ton to the pool. You see, like most of our good players are in the under 18 level or in the under 19 level. So, our 20-year-olds are not really there. We got Buchanan, attacking left midfielder, who's decent right now, but he doesn't really have a ton of potential. You know, he's got a little bit of pace and acceleration. He's 6 foot tall, 152 pounds. But this could be as good as he gets. He is on loan from New England right now, so he's got the potential to be an MLS quality guy, but is he going to be an international quality guy? Probably not. Other than that, we don't really have many in the way of prospects in our under 20s. We got a couple of guys we haven't really looked at. One of them to keep note of is Chonier from Montreal. He's a guy who currently in the real MLS, he is getting some playing time. Now, he's a super duper average player when it comes to his physicals, but he's got some very interesting technical and mental abilities for 20 years old. You know, he's got a lot of vision, decision making. He's a playmaker type guy, and we don't have a ton of playmakers in Canadian soccer currently. I would really love this guy if he had some better pace, some strength, something physically to give us. But you know, he may be a guy that we could just have on the team if he improves, if he continues to play for Montreal, if he gains that experience and knowledge and becomes, you know, a playmaker type guy. He's not a leader. He's not terribly determined. So he's got a lot of qualities I'm not looking for in a player. But he does have some qualities that we don't currently have on the roster, type like playmaking and shooting from distance. So he's a guy who could get in there on the team as a special player, as a guy to bring in as a change of pace type dude. But you know, we'll keep an eye on Chonier. We should be scouting him as well. He is wanted by Valur on loan, so he could go out and get some experience on loan over in Europe. That would be fine as well. All right, so now let's sort of take a look at the full pool. Now that we know that we've got some decent young talent coming up, let's take a look at who we've got. So we looked at a lot of these guys. Scott Arfield, we looked at him. Lucas Cavallini, 26 years old, contracted to Puebla. Another striker, another winger. 26 years old is sort of a weird age. He should be one of our top players when it comes to this current season of whatever it is we're playing, whatever competitions we're in right now. You know, he's a strong guy, 16 strength. He's brave. He's got a high work rate. He's good heading. He's sort of a target man type guy. So he's the kind of guy we're going to be relying on right now to get us wins currently. And maybe he's not going to be with us 4 years from now. Maybe he will at 30 years old. But those youngsters coming up behind him, it's unlikely. But he's a guy who can help us right now. And we definitely need the help there. We looked at Cabra, Davies, David, Piet, Borgen, Hutchinson. Of course, the 36-year-old, not going to be getting much playing time with us. And then we start moving into the MLS players. Osorio, playing over there for Toronto FC. You know, he's a decent player. Again, he's another one of those midfield type guys that we have a lot of. He currently has 24 caps. He's a good playmaker. He's not a great playmaker. 3-star ability. He's just sort of a dude for us currently. Jackson Amel, another striker winger. This is the kind of guy we're looking for. Big, strong, physical player. He's determined. He's got some decent technicals, not great. But, you know, as a striker, we need strikers, all that we can get. He's decent, and he sort of starts to build towards what we want, is those big, strong, physical guys. He is only 25 years old, so he's got a little bit of room to grow. Daniel Henry, our first real central defender that we're taking a look at. 6'2", 14 strength. He's decent physically. Very good mentally. Again, determined, leadership, teamwork, that kind of stuff. Decent tackling, marking, and heading. 25 years old. Again, he's sort of that in-between guy who's going to help us now. He'll be 29 at the next World Cup, so he'll probably still be with us. But, if he can reach his true potential at 4.5 star, he could be one of our top defenders, and he's one of our top defenders right now. There's Balu. Petrasso's an interesting character. At 23 years old, he'll be with us for a while. He's got that speed that we like. Doesn't really have the size or physicality, but he does have versatility. He can play all up and down that left or that right side, which we're a little thin at. We got a lot of left side players. We don't have a ton of right side players for whatever reason. He's currently 3-star. He could reach 3.5 star, which is sort of borderline level. He'd probably be a reserve for us for most of his career. But he does have some interesting abilities, and, he'll be a good reserve for us because of that versatility. Will Johnson, one of the old hands, defensive midfielder, 32 years old right now. He's basically out of the squad. I mean, we bring him back every once in a while just for his leadership. Of course, 17 leadership. Penalty taking. He's still a fine player. 3 stars is still pretty decent. It's just at 32 years old, I don't have a lot of time or energy to invest in this guy because we got a lot of players at his position who are younger. So, sorry, Will. He's just going to be there for leadership type guy. Kyle Laren's an interesting guy I've been looking at. 23 years old. Big, strong, fast player. He's the type of guy we're looking for at striker. He just needs to get better. He needs to improve. He needs to play more games over there in Turkey. If he doesn't play more games in Turkey, we're going to look at bringing him into MLS or, somewhere around the world. But he's got to play games. We need this guy. He's got potential. He just needs to reach that potential. Let's see. Anybody else of interest? We got a couple of 21-year-olds. Derek Cornelius, currently playing at FC Cincinnati. Central defender. Decent player. Not really what we're looking for currently, but he does have a little bit of potential. This guy is on the fence. He's definitely borderline. He's got no determination, so we don't have a ton of hope for him. But currently, he's one of the better young players that we have in that age range, and that's kind of disconcerting. Zarnata, 21-year-old Canadian, currently playing at Hearts, or at least on loan from Hearts. Another winger, left side again. I don't know what it is about Canadians in the left wing, but he's over there. He could also play a bit of striker. He's decent. Doesn't blow you away. Maybe doesn't have a ton more potential than what he's got right now. But if he can start getting playing time over there in Scotland, then maybe he can perk up. But I'm a little concerned about this age bracket. I'm a little concerned about the 21 to 23-year-old age bracket. We're thin there, and it's a little disconcerting when we have an Olympics coming up soon. But it's going to be our currently under 19 and under 20 team that will be mostly competing in the Olympics. So these guys, I think they're going to be sort of a lost generation. We have guys like Shamit Shom, 21 years old, playing at Montreal. Jaguar, also at Montreal. And Liam Fraser at Toronto FC. They're decent players, but they may have reached their potential. 2.5, 3-star type guys. And that's not going to cut it at the international level. We need 4-star guys. So we're a little thin in that age bracket. We've got good players who are older, good players who are younger, but we're soft in the middle. We need to fix that. All right, take a look at the competitions. We currently only have one competition going on. That is the North American Nations League qualifying section. So we got good news and bad news here. The good news is that we're winning in this competition. We're currently second place behind Jamaica, undefeated, 3 wins, no draws, no losses, plus 13 goal differential, just 2 goal differential behind Jamaica. That's the only thing that separates us. The bad news is that we're in this competition at all. The fact that we're in this competition means that we're not one of the top teams in North America, because you look who's absent from this competition. No USA, no Mexico, right? No, who's the other team I'm thinking of? Costa Rica, right? The top 3 teams in the continent are not here. Now, Jamaica's are really our only problem. Our only real competition in this competition is Jamaica. Everybody else we should beat. Now, that's not going to say that we will beat them, because there are some teams that are decent. Haiti's a decent team. Cuba's a decent team. El Salvador, as you saw last episode, are rated higher than we are. They're in this competition. Some other teams, Belize can be tough sometimes. Puerto Rico, if they get a good player or two, they can be tough. But for the most part, this is a 2-team race. It's between us and Jamaica. We can take a look at the schedule and see how we've done, see who's played. Let's see here. Can we find our matches? So I have played a bit on this database through 2018. I basically sort of half played and half just fast forwarded through the year of 2018. But I had to make sure that things were going well and the database was running smooth before I started this new series. Well, let's see some of the results that we've had in 2018. So we had, 3-0 Virgin Islands. It was a friendly, another friendly. So here's our first Nation League game versus Bonaire. Sort of our first time that we brought the team together. Had Carducci in goal, along with Crepeau. A lot of names that you saw earlier. Cabra, Piet, Airfield, Hoylett, Osario, Davies, Cavallini. So a lot of these guys played pretty well against not great competition. Then we beat French Guiana 3-0. We had an interesting 0-0 friendly versus the USA. That was a big match. I really wanted to see how well we could do against USA. And look at the players they had in there. I mean, they had Zach Steffen, Zimmerman, Gonzalez, Brooks, Yedlin, Johnson, McKinney, Adams, Leggett. So, they had mostly MLS-type players starting, but they also had some of their regulars on the bench, right? They had Bill Hamid coming off the bench. Christian Pulisic came off the bench. Sargent and Nagby, Chandler. So they had some good players in there. And, we held them to a 0-0 draw. So I thought that was good. I thought that was pretty good sign for us going forward. It was just a friendly, but still. Then in our other Nations League games, we beat U.S. Virgin Islands 5-0. And then we beat Puerto Rico 5-0. Just sort of, right now, we're not running into any sort of competition. We finally got Borjan back in goal. He's been kind of injured in and out. But other than that, we've got a pretty stable lineup currently with Cabra, Piet, Arfield, David, Osario, Hoylett, Cavallini. A lot of guys that you would consider that we would have in there. Those are the guys we have in there. We can take a look at the goals just to get a feeling with how we're playing. I am going with the Z formation. That's my formation. That's I'm sticking with it. Here's Airfield to Henry. Set piece goal. Hopefully we can get a lot of those going forward. Here's another one. Arfield, Henry. Looks familiar. We're going to see a lot of that combination, hopefully, going forward. Here's Arfield again, just sort of dominating the game, which is what you want from your best player. Hey, look at this. Arfield again. Free kick. So here's Shamit Shom in. Another free kick. There's Henry again. So you might notice a trend here, which is set-piece goals. Been getting quite a few of them with Team Canada, and, it's great. I love that. But we also need to work on our regular-type goals, our getting goals during the course of play. We can't rely on getting all those set-piece goals and continuing to move up the ranks. But for now, it's good enough because we're playing these teams that, quite frankly, we're just better than. And, it should help me keep my job at Team Canada, which is good. But it's not really testing us. It's not really putting us through the meat grinder. So, that's where we're at. Team Canada. We're looking pretty strong currently, but our competition isn't that strong. We're going to be playing Jamaica coming up eventually, so we'll get to that game. But for now, I think we're going to end this video here. Next video, we'll take a look at Vancouver and Major League Soccer and that kind of stuff, and sort of show you how we're going to try to build the nation from that perspective. So until then, we'll see you later.